So this week we have the Sing for Peace initiative.
An interview with Johan Gultang and our first report from the north of England.
So the G20 circus came to town this week, and of course on Saturday we had the planned riots through the whole of London. They're going to rip London to pieces. And 35,000 people marched in London, and only one person got arrested for being drunk and disorderly. So this is the message. Send G20 your thoughts and your feelings about the environment and how they can change it, but don't do it with violence.
Absolutely. We also had a wonderful interview with Johan Gultang, who was here to talk to the Ministry of Peace. Johan started an organisation called Transcend, and Transcend is an organisation that is committed to conflict transformation by peaceful means. So that was a fantastic interview. I learnt so much there.
And your film?
And Soldiers of Peace, my film. The Soldiers of Peace, the film that I plan to get in every theatre around the world. We're doing a special screening here in London, hoping to get the UK media behind us and get this film into cinemas.
It's a wonderful film. And then also on our show today we have Sing for the Earth, which is a beautiful initiative where kids sang, you've got the whole world in your hands. And they're trying to send that message off to climate change conferences and so forth around the world. So enjoy that as well. And then Alnwick Gardens.
And finally, our first report from the north of England. So enjoy that. And we'll see you next week.
Cheers, enjoy.
Bye. Today we're interviewing Johan Gultang, who is a negotiator and peace activist and whose work has spanned many decades.
My name is Johan Gultang. I'm Professor of Peace Studies in many places in the world and founder of Transcend International, an organisation or network for peace and development.
Do you think the nature of the conflicts that you've dealt with has changed, or are we still fighting about the same things we were hundreds of years ago?
You know, here comes a little problem, and that has to do with the definition of conflict and its nature. Because the Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-American tradition is to define conflict very close to violence. We don't do that professionally. The way we do it is to see conflict as incompatibility. You want something, I want something, it doesn't come together. It's more like a puzzle. Whether it turns out to be violent or not is a totally different question. And of course, what we want to do is to prevent violence, but there's no way of preventing conflict. Conflict is as human as having goals.
What part does feeling and emotion play in conflict resolution?
Now, my experience is that emotions certainly stand in the way because of the preparation for violence. That's the bad news. The good news, and the very good news, is that the moment the parties see written on the wall something that looks like a solution they could accept, it's unbelievable how quickly those emotions disappear. And why is that? Because the body registers that the violence I'm preparing for, stripping for action, being ready for something very bad, may not come. And the adrenaline finds its residence in other parts of the body, goes home, so to speak. In other words, there is nothing so important as to project a realistic hope on the wall. But that, quote, solution, unquote, has to be well thought through, and that cannot be the mediator's work alone. It has to come through dialogue with the parties. Now, at this point, the media play a very negative role, because they report violence, and they seem not, almost never, or very little, to report possible solutions. They may report statements by top leaders. It's a very elitist approach. But solutions may be, if you will, percolating somewhere else in the system, by common people, for instance, and of course I would say then from mediators who have had contacts with all the parties. So the media come in negatively by normalizing violence as something normal and natural, and in doing so give a kind of premium to the perpetrators. I know that they cut out that part of the newspaper and put it in their breast pocket and triumphantly show their own brutality to others. I made it. I became news. So it's very, very bad. And then the absence of what we call peace journalism, which actually is based on only 2 points. What's the underlying conflict, meaning incompatibility, and what's the solution to that conflict? And those are the questions almost never asked.
How does taking responsibility for starting conflict impact on the resolution of that conflict?
When it comes to the origin of conflict, I would say there is no precise origin and no precise ending. Because what is at the root of it is that human beings and collective actors like nations, classes, genders have goals. And those goals may be interests or values, maybe all kinds of goals. That will never cease. It's what makes us human. The closer we come to each other, the more obvious is it that goals can clash. And that's of course why a marriage can be the most wonderful thing and also be a battlefield, because of the closeness. Goals clash. So there is actually nobody who is the starter. The start is conflict itself, which is a relation. And for that reason it's our experience that you don't solve a conflict by changing one part or the other or the third or the fourth. Incidentally, to change any human beings is a quite uphill struggle, as anybody who has been married knows very well. Trying to change the partner or trying to be changed by the partner. No. The thing to change is the relationship. Simply say we somehow haven't found the right way of living together. So you have to know a lot about relations. In doing that, it is clear that there is a starting point, namely the start of violence. And we put the first, if you will, searching look at the person who throws the first stone. Now, very often that is by chance who does it, and it really doesn't tell us very much. And we are ready to issue certificates of guilt and things of that type. So I would say focus on relationship. Focus on relationship. Now, the parties to that relation will very often not be able to see this because they've been so engulfed by the negative judgment of the other parties. And being in that, you have a very simple mental model. He's wrong, I'm right. And we heard that from the outgoing President of the United States, and we are hoping the next one will not follow in that foottrack. So, having said that, changing relations then became a question of creativity, but also of knowledge. And I would put a little bit less emphasis on who throws the first stone.
I'm Emily Lewis-Brown from Sing for the Earth. Sing for the Earth came about from a group of families in Surrey who are concerned about climate change. I was at a singing workshop with my children, and we were singing We've Got the Whole World in Our Hands. And I realised then that it was a very moving moment and that we really do have the earth in the balance at the moment. This is the time when we can make a difference and help secure a safer future for our children and for people around the world. And turning it into You've Got the Whole World in Your Hands really was to give the message to world leaders who are going into the UN talks on climate change next week and next year, that the decisions that they make now really do determine the future of the world that our children grow up into.
1, 2, 3.
You've got the whole world in your hands. 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 You've got the flowers and the trees.
Our children trust us to protect them. But it is no longer just in our hands. Now their future is in yours. Decisions you make in the coming days will change our future forever. New science shows that feedbacks have been underestimated, pushing us towards runaway climate change. This really is the last chance we have, you have, to turn around from the impending climate disaster. This is not a time for compromise. Not a time for hoping the science is wrong. This is a time for courageous decisions. Please fight climate change like your life depends on it, because our children's lives do.
One of the main aims of making the film, You've Got the Whole World in Your Hands, is to send it to delegates that are going to the climate change talks. What I'm hoping is that it will make a connection with them and that they'll connect with these children and remember the song and the children as they're going in to make these decisions. It's very tough going in to make these decisions. There's a lot of other balances that they have to make, a lot of other deals and trades and international negotiations. And this one really does need to come at the forefront of mind over the next couple of weeks while these big decisions are being made. I'm Emily Lewis-Brown, and Sing for the Earth supports Positive TV.